Okay, this is the first part of the exam, which is most basic factoring methods. Factorize the polynomials. So there are four basic factoring methods. The first one is the common factor idea. If you check the first one, 10, 15, and 5, 5 is the common factor. 20 and 15, again, 5 is the common factor. When it's 6, 15, and 9, 3 is the common factor. The first thing is the common factor. How to factorize with that. And this first method, we are using this first method in every case. Even if you have 2 terms, 3 terms, or 4 terms, you should check whenever you have the question, factorize the polynomials, you should check that if there's any common factor or not. So let's do one question in here. Let's do the D1, 10, 15, and 5. When you check the numbers, 5 is the common factor. When you check the letters, there are also, if there are same letters like this question, there is also a common factor, which is x in here. The smallest power, we say that it is the common factor. We move the common factor out of the parentheses from every term. So 10x squared. 10x squared can be written as 2 times 5 makes 10, and x squared, x times x. So we are moving 5 and x out of the parentheses. So there remains 2x over there. From the second term, this is 3 times 5 is 15. X cubed is x times x times x. So we are moving 5x out of the parentheses. There remains 3 times x, which is 3x squared. And there should always be, when you write one to the other, there should always be a plus or a minus in here, which is right now, it must be minus. And in the next one, 5 can be written as like it's already 5x. If you are moving the whole term out of the parentheses, you should leave 1, because the whole term can be written as 5 times x times 1. 1 doesn't change anything in multiplication, so we move the 5x out of the parentheses, there remains 1 over there. First type of example. So then the second type of example about factorize the polynomials, the grouping method. This is working only when you see 4 terms. Whenever you see 4 terms, you should try to group them 2 by 2. It doesn't matter which 2 you group. Let's say you group these 2 and the other 2 of them you say another group. It doesn't matter which one. So in here in the class that I wrote this as the hardest example, or let's do this one, the F1. Whenever you see 4 terms, this is a special one, you have to use the grouping method. You should group them 2 by 2. We cannot group these 2 because they have no common factor between 3 and 10. So we try to find any 2 of them which can have the same, for example, 10 and 15. I realize that they have the common factor times 5. And then if I group 2h and 3h, they will have the common factor h. I can do this, or do we have another choice? We can also do 10 and 2h, which is 10 can be made times 2, and 2 is in here. So let's do 10 and 15 and the other ones. When I check 10 and 15, 5 is the common factor. When I group the other 2 of them as one group, so firstly, let's do the blue ones. When you check the blue ones, 3 and 2, the number parts, they don't have a common factor. We only have the letter h as the common factor. So if you put the letter h out of the parentheses for these 2, from the first term, you will have 3 and k, 3k. For the next term, when you move the h out, there will be minus 2 inside the parentheses. So then I'm going to continue with the green ones. I have grouped them in the beginning. I told you that 5 is the common factor in here. 5 times 15 is 5 times 3. We are going to move now the 5 out. But when you finish one part, and go to other part, you should always use a plus or a minus. When we move the number 5 out, right now I'm moving a positive 5 out. That's why I write over there a plus. So then, since we move the positive 5 out, there remains minus 2 from the first term. And from the next term, when you move the 5 out, 3 and k over there, plus 3k. So for this kind of questions, after you do this first step, there should always be the same things inside the parentheses. If there is not the same thing, instead of plus 5, perhaps you should move minus 5 out. That means it changes every sign inside. Minus 2 becomes plus 2, and plus 3 becomes minus 3k. But right now, we don't need that one, because if you check that, like positive 3k, negative 2, positive 3k, negative 2. The parts inside the parentheses, they are already the same things. So we say that it is again the common factor idea. H times something, 5 times something. Those two parts are the same. So we put that same part out of the parentheses. 3k minus 2. In the first place, it is H times of it. So H comes from the first place. In the second place, it is 5 times, which is positive 5 times of it. So we factorize the expression. Now here we have the third one, the third most basic method of the factorings. When you have three terms, trinomials, but these trinomials, it should be in the form of always ax squared plus bx and plus c. We should always have these three terms to be able to factorize with this method. So remember that in this method, I divided that into two subtopics. If there is no number before x squared, like if there is 1 in here, and if there is also another number before the x squared, like what's that page, like 2, 3, or 5, something like this. So in this method, we have to guess some numbers. The way of thinking, it is the same when you have no number in here and then you have a number over there, which is you have to find two numbers which, when you multiply, they must make 10. In this case, when you multiply them, they must make 14. You can arrange the signs later. First, you think about all the options that gives you 10. 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. Think about all the options that gives you 14. 1 times 14 and 2 times 7. So from these two options, one of them must work. One of them must work. And then when you have a plus, to be able to see which one is going to work, when you add them, if there is plus, when you do 10 plus 1, it should be the number in the middle. Or 5 plus 2, it should be the number in the middle. As you see, 5 plus 2 makes 7, so it doesn't fit with this case. 10 plus 1 makes 11, so it fits with the case. And later I will arrange their signs. Let's go to the next one. When there is minus, you subtract them. 14 minus 1, 13. 7 minus 2, 5. So 7 and 2 doesn't fit with the case. So after you decide the right numbers, you arrange the sign. The sign of the middle part goes to big number, always. Then you think about, to make it plus 10, the product, minus times minus or minus times plus. Which one do we need? We need minus times minus. So then, actually, the real case that I gave you as a formula, as a thinking method, you have to find two same numbers. When you multiply them, it gives you the 10. When you add them, it gives you 11, which is right now we did. So the previous thing that I explained, it is the things that goes through my mind. How do I think about finding those numbers? The way of thinking. So the final result, when I multiply minus 1 times minus 10, when I multiply them, it makes plus 10. When I add them to each other, that makes 11. So I can factorize this as x minus 1 and x minus 10. And in here, you should find two numbers. When you multiply them, it should be 14. When you add them, it should be minus 13. So then we found this with my logical thinking method. Then later we should arrange the signs and we make it fit with the case. The sign of the middle place goes to big number always. So then we think about the sign of the other number, minus times plus or minus times minus we need. So right now, in this case, we need minus times plus. So then after you decide their signs, everything should fit. Minus 14 times plus 1, product of them is minus 14. When you add them, plus 1 minus 14, that makes minus 13. So everything is okay. X plus 1 and x minus 14, we factorize this. So we have the other case under this topic with for trinomials. What if we also have another number before the first one? So in this case, the idea it was, let's use this one. You need to find two numbers. When you multiply them, it should make the number 2 or the number 3 in here, the number 2 in there, the number 5 in there. So you need to find another two numbers. When you multiply them, it should be 15. It can be 1 times of 15 or 3 times of 5. So to be able to find the right numbers, when you do cross product and add them, it should be the number in the middle. So 1 times of 15 is 15, 2 times of 1 is 2. 15 and 2 are the result of the products. When I check for the middle part, I do the same idea. Since I have plus 15 in here, I add them. If I would have minus 15, I would subtract them. So 15 plus 2 makes 17. So directly from the first trial, I have the right case. I just need to make it minus 17. 15 plus 2 makes plus 17. So to make it minus 17, the sign of the middle place goes to big number always. 1 times 15 is the biggest product. It should be minus 15. So 1 times minus 15 is minus 15. To make it plus 15, we need minus times minus in here. So then later, check the middle part once again. 1 times of minus 15 is minus 15. 2 times of minus 1 and minus 2. Minus 15 and minus 2, that makes minus 17. After you find all the right things in here, when you continue to write the final answer, you should write it like first row and the second row. First row, actually, it is 1x and 2x, which is x times x, x squared. 1 times 2 is 2. So 1x with minus 1 times the next row, 2x with minus 15. So then the next method. Before the next method, let's solve also one with the minus number at the end. Let's see a case like this. 1 times 3 I can do, and in here I can do 1 times 6 or 2 times 3. First, I'm checking 1 times 6. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. I have 6 and 3. What should I do with them? Since there is minus, to check the middle part, I'm subtracting them, and it doesn't fit with the 17. Then I change the place of these two numbers. Since it doesn't fit, I do 6 and 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 6 is 18. Since there is minus over there, I'm going to subtract them. 18 minus 1, it is 17. So with this kind of logic and trials, when you find the true numbers, you have to arrange their signs. The middle place is minus, so big product 3 times 6 is 18. It is the big product. It should be minus 18. So you do this minus 6. So then you check the sign of the other one in here. So to make the product of these two numbers should be minus 6. So minus times plus or minus times minus. Which one do we need? We need minus times plus. So then let's do the checking one more time for minus 17. 1 times plus 1 is plus 1. 3 times minus 6 is minus 18. That gives us minus 17 as we expected. So then the first row, when you go for final answer, first row 1x with minus 6. And the second row, you have 3 and 1, 3x plus 1. So then we have this last method about the factoring, last basic method, which is using the identities. We have the three identities, so you should memorize a squared minus b squared, that is equal to This is the most well-known thing in the world, I think, a minus b, about the identities, of course. Then a cube minus b cube you must memorize, and a cube plus b cube you must memorize. In every case, I told you in the class, whatever sign you have, you always start with that. If you have minus, you start with a minus b. If you have plus, you start with a plus b. Then later in this one, when it is cube, you must have degree 2 in every term, like a squared. When there is minus, you don't have to change the signs, plus a power 1, b power 1, 1 plus 1 makes 2, and plus b squared. And when it is plus in here, for the cubes, 1 degree is used in here. There must be second degree things in the next one. A squared, since there is plus, you must change the sign in here. A power 1, b power 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, and b squared. So the 3 formulas you must memorize. Let's do 2 examples in here and finish this case. For example, these 2 questions are the same thing. Like the first term can be written as square of something. 81 is square of 9 and x, all in power 2, and 121 is square of 11. So this is the case a squared minus b squared. You just do a minus b times a plus b.
Teacher, can you do C?
C, question C. Which one? Do you mean this one?
Yes.
Okay. In here, again, you can do it all in parentheses and squared. All in parentheses and squared. Let's do that. 9 is square of 3. It is x squared, so x goes in. 1 over 36. 1 is square of 1, and 36 square of 6. So you can factorize this as 3x minus 1 over 6 times 3x plus 1 over 6. So then let's do also with cubes, no problem. That's my job. I love doing that. Let's do one with the cubes. And then I will stop this record. So it will be a record of factoring methods. So this can be written as like all in parentheses and cube, all in parentheses and cube. 64 cube of 4 and a cube, a goes in. 125 is cube of 5. First, you use the same 2 numbers with the same sign, with plus between. So now, first number is 48 together, and second number is number 5. When you go to the next parentheses, if you have plus in here, you should change the signs. First, 48, the first thing, power 2. Then from plus to minus, the first thing, power 1, times the second thing, power 1. Power 1 makes 2 again, and plus the second thing with the power 2, all in squared. So in here, you just need to continue one more step, which is you should open 4 squared as 4, power 2 is 16, and a power 2, and multiplication 4 times 5 makes 20. It is a small letter a in here, 20a, and plus 5 squared is 25. And in the beginning, 4a plus 5, and you are done. You factorize this one. Wait a second. Okay. These are the most basic factoring methods that we use.